This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a journey that we are all going to take you on from different locations across South Africa. And this is a very exciting start for me because the journey is not going to always be about the big animals, but also the small little creatures that make up the ecosystems here too. Isn't he beautiful? Now we have expert guides that are going to take you on this journey with epic visuals from our cameraman, tantalizing sounds and eloquent descriptions of what we are seeing. So I hope you are all very excited. Jump on board, everyone. This is your live safari through the African bush. Welcome, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the back of our safari vehicles. As you know, we will be coming to you live from different locations across South Africa. And who knows what we'll see? That's the joy of going bumbling. My name is Lauren. I do have Davy on camera, and we're still sitting in camp. We haven't actually left yet because I have fallen in love with my new friend. This is the first time I've actually seen this organism out here in the wild, and of course, it's the first time I'm putting it on camera, naturally. Now, this is the oleander moth, hawk moth. Sorry, you can see immediately from the body shape that it's a hawk moth. You can also call it the green army moth, but I think I prefer the oleander moth. It's absolutely stunning. I have decided that I want to dress in that pattern. I don't think I would look as good as this moth did, but, you know, I'll try. So, of course, as I've mentioned, this is your safari. It's all about you guys. So please do talk to us. And you can do that in a number of different ways. You can use the hashtag WildEarth on Twitter. You can use @FC on the YouTube chat. You can actually register on the WildEarth website. Head over to the live safari page and submit your questions there. Kids, if you're under 18, please do talk to us. Send in all your wonderful questions via email, and that's kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. I look forward to answering all your wonderful questions, and you can chuck in a good old comment or two to make us chuckle along the way. Now, this oleander moth is actually crepuscular, so it's very, very active during the sort of dawn and dusk. We found them on the car, and as you can imagine, I'm absolutely overjoyed. When you look at hawk moths, they are very they have a different body design from your general moth. Now, you can see his little antenna here. It's folded back, and he looks like he's wearing a great big furry helmet. It's absolutely adorable. And of course, once we do pull out of camp, we will leave him here and let him get on with his day, whatever that may involve. But they are actually found across Africa and Asia, and they were actually introduced to various different Hawaiian islands as a method to encourage specific pollination of certain plants, as the plants were in trouble and they needed them to be pollinated. And therefore, they brought in this moth to come and do the job for them. So they have actually been introduced by humans for a purpose in Hawaii. But they have a broad distribution. I've just never seen one before. Have you, Davy? Davy has also never seen one. The coloration is just incredible. And green happens to be my favorite color. So look at all the different types of green you get on here. And they feed on nectar. They're nectar feeders on a great variety of different flowers. They're not specific on certain plants. They have a huge variety, and they will suck up all the nectar using that lovely proboscis that they have. Just the exact same as butterflies. They have almost an internal straw that curls up. You can't actually see it right now, it will be underneath, and they can uncurl it using muscular contractions and then suck up all the delicious nectar. But a lot of the oleander hawk moths actually feed on highly toxic plants as caterpillars. So the caterpillars are immune, but it will mean through bioaccumulation that they're not palatable for any other species. So I'm going to put this little guy back out in the wild and begin our bumble, but let's take a look at the weather across all our different locations.
Good morning and welcome to And Beyond Ngala, where we've managed to find a single elephant bull busy feeding in this nice summer's morning. Looks like he's slowly starting to move off, probably to continue foraging. We're just feeding on looks like a small knobthorn tree, which is one of the species of tree they really enjoy feeding on because it's got high nutrients for them. Amazing. Well, my name's Fred. Behind the camera we've got Owen. And our plan this morning was to actually come spend some time in the eastern part of the reserve to see what we can find. And of course we've been very lucky with the elephant bull this morning. A little bit further back there has been tracks of a herd moving in the area, heading towards the river. But I don't think that this younger bull is actually looking to follow them. I think he's just coincidentally in the same area. Most likely a young bull like him will only really look to join up with the herd when he's much older and bigger, and when he goes into must looking for females that are in heat. I think he's just a bachelor bull off by himself, busy feeding and just moving through this area. I could just see the back of him moving away. You can see some of the ears flapping, but I tell you, it's amazing how quickly they can disappear. There you can just see. Now that movement you see, the ears flapping, it's often the one thing when you are looking for elephants in thick bush that will catch your eyes. Any movement. So ear flapping like that, sometimes you see the trunk moving, especially when you're looking through thick bush. Even just that white of the tusk of the ivory often catches your eye. And then of course another way to look for find elephants is any interesting sounds, either with them trumpeting or rumbling, or branches breaking as well. You hear that very light sound. But we're probably going to leave this elephant and move on to see what else we can find. In the meantime, we're going to be sending you over to Andrew.
Good morning everybody. Welcome to Djuma Private Game Reserve this morning. Where we're spending time here, we're looking at the golden web spider sitting right in the center of its web. And this is where sometimes also to defend that nest not to get damaged by birds, flying birds. It's always a good idea. My name's Andrew. On camera I have Mpo this morning. So we came and decided to spend some time here with beautiful golden web spider. We're actually looking at towards the sun there. All you see the beautiful of the web. The dew stuck in there, it's come visible. was, I think, in a way, distance. With that, we're looking at a female golden orb-web spider. There is one sitting right in the middle of the nest or the web. Usually, they're so clever creature that they sit there, but it's all about hunting, but at the same time, it's defending that web. Usually, bird fly, they'll fly through that without knowing, probably damage that nest. So for her sitting in there, so she's visible. And the birds will avoid it by seeing it. And then a male's 100 times smaller than that female we're looking at there. Trying to look if you could be around. Usually you stay away from her. Avoiding getting eaten. Well, she will eat him. So Tom, you're asking how long does it take for these spider to build a nest like this? It could take a while sometime, but in a day, or usually it takes place in the middle of the night. Most of the constructing, building, and just build a nest, probably one night, but to build stronger, and as we can see, it looks like it's been there for ages. That is going to continuously do more or reactivate or rebuild around that. Maybe 3 days or so to make it so strong. Safari kitten, so you say in nature, it's awesome. I agree, it is indeed awesome. And what you were looking at there, I know these spiders, and they are sometimes do such a beautiful role in the wild, where they get rid of all mosquitoes or flies. That's what they feed on. Anybody who's stuck in there, even a small bird stuck in there can't fly off because that web is very slicky, very sticky, so much that there's no way for a small bird to get away from it. Look at Lou. Quite a lot of game walking in and out, and she's ready for that. If that happens, she will run into the branches because that nest, that's how it contracted there. It's attached to the branches, and then she'll run into the branches. Whatever will pass by, damage the nest, and then she will rebuild. Maybe she will change position, go somewhere else. Build a nest, another one. Maggie, so you're asking if there's a lot of golden orb web spiders in this region. It's quite a lot of them around here. This is actually season for most of this golden orb web spider. And also those are also other species, which is a garden spider. This one, they don't pose a nest into this, like this height that you see there, most in grasses. But yeah, there are quite a lot of them. But now the sun is coming up. All the dew is going to dry, perfect for that spider to aim for its hunt. This is a way of hunting, so they don't wander around, they just wait for any movement of that web. And this is where she knows something caught around. And she's just gonna visit there. Many of these spiders are harmless. So it looks like the policy there, it's a little harder for the two partner, where female always visible, but not like to see male all the time. Male has got to be somewhere well hidden, away from that web possibly. And the only time the mate, or not a mate really, is a system where they will fertilize each other's eggs by dropping kind of like a sperm in one of the web, and then female also come to the same position. That's how they actually fertilize their eggs. So I'm going to carry on, search around and visit what these hyena were calling about. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Ntswalo to say hello to everybody.
Good morning from Swalu. Just a beautiful, partly cloudy sky. It's going to be a very bright, sunny day today again, so we're in for a very warm morning. And our plan for this morning is to go and see if we can get you an update on one of the sets of meerkats. So I know I just parked with the sun in the background. Apologies for that, but I'm Deirdre, and on camera with me is BK. So that's our plan this morning. We're not too far from one of the meerkat burrows, so we're going to go down and have a look and see if we can get an update on some of those cute little pups that I believe you've seen. See what they're up to. Just a really, really beautiful morning. There's sort of a very nice dawn chorus. The birds are busy calling. Red-crested corehorns calling. So we're going to make that's our little, probably fawn-coloured lark making the most noise in the background there. We're going to make our way to meerkats. We'll catch up with you shortly.
It's the month of March and Wild Earth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer and you could win a 5-day Eco-Training Ranger experience for 2. Eco-Training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the Wild Earth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
What are you looking at, man? That's its gangster face. It has the manners of a common variety vagabond. Look at it chewing with its mouth open like that.
My name is Steve, and one of my favorite things at Wild Earth is getting questions from you. The type of questions that I really like are those ones that really help us to unpack and understand and really integrate the ecological knowledge and fully appreciate the importance that animals such as these Cape buffalo bring to the ecosystem. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you're going to have to register on the website. But once registered, just head on over to the live safari page and enter your question under the live feed.
Look at this, the little one is up and about. Certainly hasn't had enough milk at this age. No amount of milk is enough. Oh, Corky. Too sweet. Oh, look at this. That is stunning.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Well, we've managed to turn around and head back towards the river. Those elephants seem like they've moved off into the thickets. So our plan is to drive to take the next road that actually follows the riverbed for a little bit. And then we're going to leave the eastern parts of the reserve and head further to the central parts. There's a very nice watering hole I want to look at first. One of the things I love about water is it's a place you always want to go have a look. Even now in the rainy season when we have so much water available for the animals, there's still a chance that essentially anything can go and drink there. So when I'm close to water, I always like to go have a look, but it's also lovely to drive next to the riverbed here. You might actually come across that herd of elephants where we saw the tracks of earlier. I think this is the area they would have come to. It's amazing driving through here and you can feel the bushes and the grass splashing on us. We're just going to wipe the screen as well. A lot of high humidity this morning and mist and fog in the air. But actually driving through, you can see the splashes of the grass and from the trees, and actually I can feel my sides getting wet, and that might also be hitting the camera. Which is quite amazing because in a lot of ways, areas like this don't necessarily always get rain, and it's just that dampness and the condensation from the night and the cooling that actually waters a lot of the plants in an area like this. That's often how a lot of the plants in deserts survive, is from this very thing. Because we had no rain last night, but it's just everything is damp and covered in moisture. Actually just had a smell of elephant, but I think because there's some old dung on the road. But funny thing about elephant dung, when it gets to a certain stage, the smell is actually almost quite nice. It's like a wood smell. Like some woods have got a very specific smell to it, and that's often what elephant dung will smell like. Just going through this little drainage line. Oh, goodness. Actually just managed to stall there. And there we go. Okay, so the reason when I stop and go backwards like that, it's just taking the vehicle out of four-wheel drive. So Jerome is asking if I've seen an explosion of insects after the rain. And very good question. Indeed, we have. Not so much now, actually. It was even, if you talk about a few weeks ago, even like to the start of the year, just after all the rains we had, there was insects all over the place. And that's one of the main reasons why all the migrating birds often come here in the summer months to breed. The reason they come here is that there's a lot of food for them. For instance, like the woodland kingfishers that come here during this time of year, most of them would have already finished their breeding. And I remember at the lodge there was a pair that was nesting very close to the main deck area. And I tell you, to see those two parent birds, every few minutes they'll go out trying to catch something, and they'll catch little stick insects and grasshoppers and pretty much anything really. But you can see that when they go looking for food, they actually find it fairly easily because there's just insects everywhere. And it's one of the things that we do expect to see in a landscape like this. And one very interesting thing as well is that an area like this where we're driving through, the amount of insects in this, in terms of biomass, the amount of weight, is a lot more than we think. A couple of years ago, there was a scientist in Kruger, and he did a study where they took one particular tree. They used a thermal fogger where they blew a type of a smoke. They didn't kill the insects, but it sort of made them fall asleep, and they fell down onto a tarp on the ground, and then they literally counted all the different insects, identified them, put them into different groups, and then weighed them. And essentially what they did, they then extrapolated that amount of the one tree to roughly, a certain amount of trees you might get in a particular area. It's way more complicated than that. But what they actually figured out is that in an area like this, the insects outweigh all the mammals. So if you take the elephants, the giraffe, the zebra, the buffalo, all of them, and you put their weight together, the insects outweigh them at a ratio of 2 to 1. So there's a lot more insects out there than we realize, and they probably play a way more important role than we realize as well in terms of pollinating plants and helping with chemical cycles. And of course, they're a major food source for a lot of the animals and birds out here. So I tell you, the day I realized that and I started reading about these insects, definitely opened up a whole different world for me. And there was just a little slender mongoose that ran across the road there. Just saw the black tip of the tail, that very long shape, almost like a weasel. Lucy is asking, how do migratory birds know where to go? And that is quite an interesting one. I don't think we will specifically know that, but it seems to be an instinctive thing. A lot of studies show that's in their instinct. I don't know if it necessarily is something in their brain that helps them to determine direction, but also an internal clock in them at a specific season will stimulate that insect to have to move to a different area. If you look at, for instance, things like sea turtles, they've got chemicals or substances in their brain that actually react to the magnetic field, and that might be a way how they know where to move. And I think for birds there might be something specific, but I actually don't know what the actual cause for that would be. But I mean, it literally blows my mind. Do you think that they can travel that far, sometimes over different continents, and not just know where to go, which country to go to, or what place in the world, but they'll sometimes go to the exact same tree, to the same nest. As I was talking earlier with those woodland kingfishers at the lodge, we've had the same pair there come year after year, and they know where they want to be, they know where the tree is, where the hole in the tree is that they prefer. So I think their level of understanding of how to navigate, I think, is far beyond what we probably would understand. Right, well, we're going to continue with our drive and first head towards that water trail, see if there's something there, and we're going to be sending you off to Lauren.
Am I live? Oh, I'm sorry, I did not realize I was live, and I was telling Davy it's a beautiful morning. Because it really is a beautiful morning. Now, some of you may notice Mr. Oleander Hawkmoth. I tried very hard to get him on the vegetation in camp, and he doesn't want to leave. So I'm happy. He is more than welcome to sit on my shoulder anytime. Aren't you? Davy, you do never get that privilege to sit on my shoulder, but the moth can. So we are actually on our way to see Shidulu. She is somewhere, but there was also alarm calls at camp. So we were sort of trying to scratch around camp. The impala are very unhappy, and it can't be Shidulu. So I'm wondering if Miss Klalamba is around. We scratched and we scratched, but with the vegetation this thick, it's very difficult. And then, of course, the impala camped down. So that obviously means the imminent threat has moved off. Davy is laughing because he's just watching me put my earpiece in. I forgot I didn't have my earpiece. Oops. That's why I didn't hear you, FC. Isn't that funny? Now, where we're going, I'm not entirely sure of the location, but we are heading around Treehouse Dam. And Treehouse Dam's a very... there's a vehicle. I have a funny feeling we're probably going to see Shidulu very soon.
I'm leaving one station with a lock, basement 2, and ready to charge.
Thanks, Fanoti, I'm on my way. And she came all the way from Simbambili to Treehouse Dam. And Treehouse Dam's sort of centre of Djuma, but south. And it's a core area. It's where at least Klalamba and Shidulu are very much meeting. It's where their sort of territorial boundaries at this point in time are clashing. Now that will change, that will shift as always. Are you ready to see a leopard, Mr. Hawkmoth? A big bad leopard. He blends in very well to my attire. Jared sounds surprised, but everyone's very impressed that the Hawkmoth likes me so much. I have a very strange relationship with insects. Okay, we're just scanning. I may have to get on the radio. She's here somewhere. And once again, regarding off-roading, we have permission to off-road in this particular part of the reserve. But I think I will have to get on the radio and find out exactly where our gorgeous Duchess of the West is. But that would be, I see the vehicle, she's here somewhere. But that'll be interesting if Shadulu's at Treehouse and Klalamba is just around our camp. That's very close proximity. These two leopardesses are more than familiar with one another, and they're constantly sort of traveling in circles around one another. But Klalamba never goes west. Morning! Okay, I see the people, but I don't see the cat. Okay. Okay. Ravi, is this a huge hole in front of the vehicle? Yes. Okay. It's good having a cameraman who's slightly tall and can assist you. Okay, I'm going to get into position here and try and give you a beautiful view of Shadulu, but for now, let's go over to Andrew.
Good luck, Lawrence. We got a now beautiful roller over here. And that's a purple roller. We don't see many of them, but they're around. And they tend to be slightly bigger than the others rollers we have here, such as a European roller and lilac-breasted roller. The bird that you just heard on their side, that's a Swanson's Franklin's giving that call. And it's positioning itself there for a warm. Fix their wings. And they stretch their mouth or beak. KG, so you're saying this is a new bird for you. It's actually a beautiful bird that when you look at the coloration is as well. You know, the whole belly, purple, slightly the coloration. And the top, it's even mixed with a little greenish, brownish, but the purple still appear as well. So it is indeed beautiful. Most birds that do quite a lot of calls just early in the morning, just make sure that they're all around. advertising their territory. I'm going to be doing the search here, see if I can find anything. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Lauren.
You may hear this terrible noise. There's a very large... What is it, Davy? Is it a bee? Flying around my microphone. Don't worry, FC. There's not a tech problem. We've managed to find Shadulu. And of course, she's just resting in the long grass. The grass is very wet. Lots of moisture in the air. And of course, she's found the most perfect spot of shade. But knowing Shadulu's behavior, knowing her personality, I don't think it'll be terribly long before she's up and about. And just touching on what I was saying before we found her. So if it's Tlalamba, that's not too far away, Shadulu's here. And Cara, we actually had Cara for you last night, everybody. But we also snapped our antenna. So, you know, we had a leopard, but we had no antenna. So in case you wondered where I disappeared to last night, that's what happened. But we did have Cara in our very northwestern part of the reserve, just below Sydney's Dam. So that's 3 leopardesses, only 2 dominant. That's sort of using Juma right now, or on Juma right now. Now, Cara's not territorial, she's just a little over 2 years, but she's finding her feet, or should I say paws, and she's sort of traversing different areas, trying to find some space, trying to learn who's around, who's the neighbours. And of course, once she finds that perfect space, she'll start to set up her own territory. And Shadulu is, of course, her mother, so Shadulu will make space for Cara. Even if their interactions are not very pleasant and they're slightly aggressive, she will make space for Cara. That's how it works with female offspring of leopards. And once Cara starts to really become territorial, everything will shift. It's almost like a mobile jigsaw. Like that visualizer on the MacBook. Everything ebbs and weaves and flows around one another. And once Cara really does start to expand and make space for herself, everything around will also shift a little bit. Can you hear that awful ugly noise? That's the roller, the lilac breasted roller, not the purple. It's really not a very pleasant bird call for one of the most beautiful birds. Now, also another update. I was on my way to the hyena den, I think, when I saw you last yesterday, and all 6 cubs were out, not in Tima's little bambino, but no adults. So we said hello, of course, and then we had to leave. But it's way too hot for the hyenas to be out now. But that'll absolutely be on my agenda this afternoon, I can assure you. It's great to have Shadulu back here. There was a period where we were finding Shadulu on Juma every single day. But now she's back to spending a lot of her time through the west. Jackal, absolutely common. Although they are sort of said to be arboreal, which means they live a large portion of their life in the trees, or they conduct a lot of their activities in the trees. They're also just cats. So wherever is comfy, to be honest. We all know that a cat loves to sleep. So sometimes she enjoys trees. Shadulu actually means termite mound. And that's because you always found her on top of termite mounds. So she likes to be up high. I often find the females prefer to be in trees a lot more than the males, but that is solely just my observation. I don't have any scientific basis for that. But yes, you will also find them on the grass. It's nice, it's cool here, it's shaded. She's probably had a very, very busy night, knowing Shadulu. So you will find them in trees the most when they have kills. And they will also spend time in trees when they don't have kills. But that's sort of the main reason for going up trees. Stashing your kill and keeping it out of reach of any scavengers. Mostly hyenas. also realise I didn't get to finish my riddle yesterday. So I will come back to that today, I promise. So as the three of us on this vehicle, including my little hawk moth, sit and watch Shadulu, we are going to send you guys down to Swallow.
And good morning from Tolu again. This is our little rock star group. I think a while ago I called the little ones Rockettes. It was a thing, and they've done really, really well. There's at least still 4 little youngsters. But they're looking into the distance, unfortunately. I don't think, now, BK, I think they're all running away from us. There's a whole herd of eland on the dunes right at the back there. They've been running across the screen in the background, and that's what's caught the meerkat's attention, is the herd of meerkats. So even though the eland would do no harm to the meerkats, it's just that movement that attracts their attention to make sure, is it something that's going to threaten them or not? Because if they ignore small things like jackal or any of the other predators, it's a bit of a problem. So they just are alert and watching. And some of them haven't quite perfected their standing up and balancing on their tail. That's almost the lazy way of being a meerkat in the mornings. Yeah, it isn't always easy. We've just been commenting of having come to these burrows month after month, that literally, that sand mound of how they've been modifying the burrows over the last year have increased quite a bit, because they've been digging and digging. So they've only been adding to their tunnels, and that mound is getting higher and higher. But as the grass level has also got higher, so they're actually able to see better by making that nice mound and enjoy the sun as well. Oh, sorry, that was me. I made a sudden movement and they moved quite quickly. Linda says, woohoo, the rock stars. So it just shows you how quick. I mean, I made a sudden movement and they reacted to that. We're only about 10 meters from them. And that's how alert they actually are to our presence. But the rock stars have done really, really well. They like, this is the far burrows that they're at this point, and they only seem to have sort of 2 burrows that they choose, but there's a really, really good feeding area for them here. And out of all the meerkat groups, this particular group seems to get up the last and leave the burrows last. So it does show that they've got really, really good food in their area, that they don't need to go foraging early. And there is a big difference seasonally now compared to last year, when there was less food available and they'd been in a drought season. They would have already moved on to start finding food, because the food availability was far less than what it is now. So they can afford now, with having had the very, very good rains and just the sheer abundance of food, they can afford to spend the time sort of relaxing at the, I don't really call it relaxing, I suppose, but spending time at the burrows, enjoying the morning sun. Oh, there's a springbuck in the background there that they're looking at. It's going to be running across the screen. It's going to sort of go in the same direction of the eland. So Leslie's asking the question, what would they do if they saw a predator? So if they are at home, like they are now, they'd immediately go into the burrow. They'd probably sound an alarm so that it doesn't matter which one saw the predator, that all of them would know that there was a potential predator. And the type of alarm would dictate to them what type of reaction they need. So if it was an aerial predator like an eagle, they know they need to duck down and get under the burrow. If it's a jackal or something like that, that alarm, and they almost bark. It's almost like a little bark, like, guck, 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 shouting at the jackal, and they watch it. They want to see where it goes and what it's doing. So then they don't then run down into the burrow. They just sit and they'll watch it. And then if it came too close, then they'd go down into the burrow. So they do have different reactions depending on which predators are around. But out when they're foraging, they've always got what they call bolt holes that they maintain when they go out foraging. And those are always, there's always somewhere within their territory a bolt hole within 50 meters or less. And they'll purposefully maintain those when they go out foraging, because that's sort of in their mind map, and they know exactly where they need to go. If the sentry alarms and says there's danger, they all run for that burrow and they all just get underground if they need to. Good stretch. Jesse is asking the question, which other animals live in holes at Tswalu? So there are actually a lot, because in the Kalahari it gets incredibly hot. So living under the ground, you're at a much lower temperature, and in the heat of the day, you've got a really good place to hide. So what we do find often sharing burrows with meerkats are ground squirrels, as well as sometimes even yellow mongoose. They've all seen a springbuck running in the background, at least two. Unfortunately behind the tree for BK, but the meerkats, that reaction is because they've seen the sudden movement and they didn't quite see exactly what it was before it went behind the bush. But other animals that live in holes here would be aardvark. They dig really big holes, and those holes then become homes for warthog, even pangolin. And they've even seen at times in the extreme heat that steenbok, which is a very unusual thing, that steenbok sometimes go into the holes, and that might be just to get out of the extreme heat. And they've seen them sort of pop out of a hole, which is very unusual. We also have two bird species that nest in holes, one of them being the South African shelduck, and the other one is an ant-eating chat. So there's birds that use holes, and there's lots of different mammal species that use holes. We were fortunate enough to even see a Cape Cobra last night, and they'll also be in some of these holes underground, especially sort of overwintering when they're not so active. They'll use them as well. Bat-eared foxes, Cape fox. So in the Kalahari, a lot of things will use holes as a home, as well as then also to get out of the extreme heat. So Rolling Log, if I understood the handle there correctly, is asking the question, is inbreeding a problem with meerkats? I'd say not really, because of the fact that you only have an alpha male and an alpha female in the group that do the breeding. And then when the pups get to a certain age, some of them will stay with the group, but others, when they get to a certain age, if they feel that they want to be dominant themselves, becoming their own alpha female or a dominant alpha male, they'll move and they'll try and integrate with another group of meerkats. So there is quite a lot of genetic swapping that does happen. So we've noticed that even amongst the three different groups, that sometimes a male decides he wants to be a dominant male and he challenges another male from another group to see if he can take over. And those fights can be quite aggressive. the eland are running back into the picture in the background there. They've changed direction completely and they're running back exactly where they came from. So we're not 100% sure. Maybe something spooked them there. We'll probably go out there later and have a look. But they totally changed direction, coming back again. Scared the meerkats back down the hole. So I think we're going to go and investigate what made those eland run. So we're going to leave the rock stars for the morning. They look like they're about ready to start foraging and moving on for their morning anyway.
Wild Earth is launching a brand new bushwalk from Pridelands, with a slew of potential dangers lurking. It's essential to be aware of your surroundings whilst walking in the wilderness.
20 yards away from one of the most endangered species. This is a big bull.
What a moment, what a close encounter with an Ellie bull. He's just over here now. He's moved completely away.
Being on a bushwalk and seeing a leopard, I mean, it's ridiculous to be this close to a leopard on foot and for him not to run is absolutely insane. How crazy was that?
Through the gap there is just the back of the head of a male lion. He is absolutely unaware that we are here right now. I tell you, seeing lions on foot, it definitely brings out the caveman in you, this little scared human being.
Oh, my dear, I do find you most attractive when you're covered in bird lice. Oh, Charles, I love it when you peck at my head and clean the bird lice off me. Let me say hello to Barry here. Hello, Barry. I'm just going to examine you for some bird lice. Charles, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Oh, all right. I shall look for bird lice on myself then.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. I'm looking really forward to taking you through and showing you all the beautiful places here at And Beyond Ngala. If you have any questions, please register on our website. Once registered, go to the live page feed and post your questions underneath the live feed. Join me on my next safari through And Beyond Ngala on Wild Earth. Send me live questions through the Wild Earth website and I'll answer them live from the African bush.
The croc is still holding another one there. It's holding from the hindquarters. I would really want. The wildebeest cross, is it trying? The croc is holding the tail. It's holding tight. Oh no. Goodness me. Lucky, lucky wildebeest. You have another day to live.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
Typical Shujulu is busy as ever. So we are following her, but we're just being extra cautious. So bear with us. My little hawk moth flew off, but that's okay. He flew off onto the vegetation, which is exactly where he should be. And this particular species of hawk moth will rest during the day. It'll become more active as the sun starts to go down. Okay, Shudulu, I would really like it if you went onto the roads. It's okay, Robbie? Tail's twitching, she's very alert. I wonder if she's hungry. She doesn't look particularly full. Not like Tandy the other day. My goodness, I don't think I've ever seen Tandy that full. I wish I could hear what they can hear. I wish I could see what they can see. Now she's heading in the direction of the road, which is really perfect. We're off-roading right now with much, much caution. Maggie, very possibly. Shudulu, have you spotted something? Very, very possibly. Let's go forward, Davy. But unfortunately, I don't know. Their senses are very heightened. They have much better sort of olfactory capabilities than we do. Eyesight, hearing. Can only begin to imagine how they perceive their world. So different from how we perceive our world. And technically, it's the same world. I think she's going to pop out, Davy. Shall we go to the road? Just watch all these branches. Ah, there she is. She's popped out. Okay, this gives us much better visuals, and it means we're back on the road. Okay, let's see where she's going to go. Oh, what's that over there? Let me see. I'm just going to look through my binos. Oh, I think it's just a bird. I can see movement, that's all. But it definitely seems like she's spotted something, Maggie. As to what, I do not know. We watched Kara hunt a lizard yesterday. It was very sweet. Kara's really small. She's much smaller than her mother, much smaller than Kalamba. She will go through a huge growth spurt, but she's a petite little leopard. And we watched her pounce and bound after a lizard. It was very sweet, and she caught it. And that just shows you they are so opportunistic. If they've not had a big meal, if they've not had an impala feast, they will snack on whatever they can find. They need to sustain themselves. They need enough energy. They won't starve until they find their next impala. Absolutely not. They will really take down what they can. Be it a lizard, be it a mongoose, a squirrel, a ground bird. Look, our tails up. Leopard tails are so important. They have sort of many different functions. Thank you, Shudulu, for staying out in the open. I didn't catch that name or the question, Jared. One more time. We're going to go forward, Dove. Benak, that's a strange question because really, I guess in this environment, they're not so elusive. I mean strange as in it's a difficult one to answer because really, we get to see these cats a lot and we're extremely lucky. But by nature, leopards generally are elusive because they have to be. It's a survival technique. Davi, what do you think? It's pretty thick in there. We're going to follow for a little bit, but we may have to sort of give up at some point. But yes, by nature, they're elusive because they have to be. They don't want to be seen. They're solitary. They don't want to bring any attention to themselves. But I know that's very much contradicts to the leopards out here. So it's a great question, but it has a sort of two-sided answer. They're camouflaged. Their entire body look to us, those rosettes, the spot pattern. It's to ensure that they blend in. It's to ensure that they stay hidden. They don't have a pride. They don't have a clan or a pack. They're out here on their own. They don't want to attract any attention. Okay, she's just behind this thicket here. Shudulu loves this block. I can't even begin to count how many times we've had Shudulu in this block. They do actually have quite predictable movements at the end of the day. But I think this may be us for a while. We're going to start going down into a drainage line, and that's where we're not allowed to be, and we definitely don't want to be right now. It's still far too waterlogged. So I'm not going to follow any further, I'm afraid. But that was a very pleasant morning with Shadulu. She'll probably pop back out again. Okay, so we're going to say goodbye to our Duchess for now, and we're going to send you guys across to Andrew.
Alright, so we now also still in search, which we haven't yet found anything, but we got evidence of piles of elephants' dung on the road, where I think they might be maybe been around here last night. I think so. But it looks like it. Not fresh, but not old. So probably last night. So I'm gonna check with the tracks where they're gone, which direction they were heading. Because elephants, they move night and a day. Maybe non-stop when they want to. So I'm gonna check it out then. Looks like they're moving direction of where we're going for now. So we're going to check one of the watering hole in front of us. Charles, so you're asking how far would the elephant travel in a day? A huge distance sometimes, depending on what they are up to. But you got elephants that they are continuously moving, not even feeding. That can cover 30 k's sometimes a day or 25 k's a day in movement like that. But they sometimes delay due to the feeding. When they're delayed, it means that they're going to be maybe spending time in some area feeding. So they can even move less. Maybe 10 to 15 kilometers a day sometimes when they're in a delay. When I say checking the watering hole, they won't be drinking at this time of the morning. But you never know, they are sometimes playful. They could be around a watering hole because the grass is still quite soft. Looks like they're not around, but there is an Egyptian geese floating about into the water. There has to be a male and a female Egyptian geese. This is what they always prefer to be male and female in the same area, move about. So I'm going to carry on, follow these elephant tracks. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Lauren.
what we have found. Garden orb web spider, not a golden. It's a garden. I don't know what species. But we've got incredible views. I think just by us driving, it decided to scuttle off the web because they've got a centre point in the web. There's always a centre point. And they've scuttled up to the tree. And this is actually how they blend in, believe it or not. Although they're not entirely camouflage, if you just look at sort of the way it's hanging on this branch, generally it wouldn't be seen. Now I wonder if Davy can just give you a view of this really gorgeous stabilimentum, and you'll see in the middle of it, there's a sort of gap. And that's his centre, oh sorry, naughty Lauren, that's her centre point. That's where she will sort of hang in her web upside down all day. They're just such incredible organisms, and of course it's daytime now, it's time to be active. It's time to maintain your web, and it's time to go looking around your web to see if you've managed to successfully catch anything. And you can only really see these sort of webs in certain sunlight from certain angles. Otherwise you just...
To get him on.
You're struggling to get him or the
Stabilimentum.
stabilimentum. Okay, Davy's struggling. Just a little bit too finicky, I think. But it's very, very obvious. It's a white zigzag that goes all the way down the middle of the web. I guess you could call it web decoration. But its function is subject to debate. There's lots of different theories as... You've got it now. Okay, well done. Davy's got it now. There's sort of different viewpoints and different theories as to why the webs have them. Is it web advertisement? Is it sort of, hey, there's a web here, guys. Big birds, please don't fly this way, because if you fly, you're going to break my web, and it took a long time to build it. So are you intentionally advertising your web? Because this stabilimentum is really visible. That's actually, I spotted this stabilimentum before I spotted the spider. So that's one hypothesis, web advertisement. So it's subtle enough, but it's there, and then you can see it from all angles because it's much thicker, the silk is much thicker, to stop birds breaking it. Because if every single bird that flies through breaks your web, you're going to spend a lot of time building webs. That's a big cost to your energy budget. And of course, not all spiders include a stabilimentum, so therefore, maybe that hypothesis is not entirely correct. Is it to attract prey? Does it lure in prey? That's exactly what the spider wants. The spider wants this web filled with delicious species of insect to last them a long time. So we're going to sit and admire this gorgeous spider. I'm going to send you guys across to Ngala.
Right, we've managed to find a nice group of impala and some zebra. And we just thought it would be nice to show you a little classic savannah scene. And the first thing that's catching my eye, though, is just all those tails twitching of the zebra. And actually not one of them are looking at us at the moment, but that's all just from all the biting flies and insects that are bothering them. And you can even see some of the impala are doing the same thing, you know, with their skins twitching and their ears flicking. And I had a bit of a look just before we stopped. One of the things I like to do with zebras, I like to always look on their backsides or on their sides. Sometimes you'll see old, like, scratch marks from a previous attack of a lion, but it doesn't look like these ones have had any close encounters with predators. There was one female, I think she's on the right. I don't know if she's moved behind the bush, but you can see she is very, very heavily pregnant, like very, very round. Now a zebra You know, they always got big stomachs, especially with the way they digest the food. They produce a lot of gas in their stomachs, so their stomachs are always big and round. So it's only really when a female is quite heavily pregnant that you can see now she's definitely close to giving birth. But quite a nice scene. Just watching them, there's a couple of birds calling in the background. I haven't managed to see the dominant male impala of this group. A few youngsters on the right, but he's probably somewhere off to the left because it looks like the group is moving further to the left into the thicket, and I can just see behind the vehicle almost to the side there are some impala I'm starting to see through the bushes there. So I think this is a nice large herd, and the male's probably somewhere that side. In terms of leopard, sounds like you've had some lovely sightings of a leopard this morning. I believe it's in Djuma. But yeah, a scene like this is particularly on Ngala with impala. This is the ideal prey for leopard here. Zebra, like the ones we're looking at now, most likely way too big for a leopard. But young zebra, definitely in the range for a leopard. Especially a big male leopard, they are very, very, very strong. I've even seen footage of young rhinos being pulled up into a tree, and young to medium-sized zebra. So leopard, extremely, extremely powerful. But in an area like Ngala, their preferred prey species are the smaller antelopes, impala and duiker. And interestingly enough, also like at the beginning of the year, when there's still also a lot of young wildebeest, we've seen on a few of the male leopards take that up a tree. But generally speaking, especially in the central parts where we mainly have female leopards, them being a lot smaller in size and weight. Small antelope like this, ideal prey size for them. It is indeed a beautiful African scene, and such a true reflection of what a game drive should be. You go out in the morning and you really don't know what you're going to find. There's a variety of so many different animals and birds and species that we can find here, and you never know what you're going to find around the next corner. And it's been quiet for the last few minutes, and then we just came around this corner and here it was. Lovely little scene. And you can almost see that it looks like all of these ones are also close to the edge of, it's a bit of a clearing here, and then it starts getting more thick that side. And I think the reason they're probably trying to stay close to this clearing is they might feel more safe here because their visibility is a lot better. They can really see and hear predators a lot more easily here, mainly from a sight point of view. And you'll see that their awareness will have to go up, and their behavior changes the moment they start crossing that road and going further into the thickets. They'll start moving a bit slower, they'll stop more often, more of them will start lifting their heads, and they'll try and listen. But on a morning like this morning, there is not a breeze blowing. It's beautiful summer's morning, and for them, it actually helps them a lot, because any strange noise or any sounds that might alert them to the potential predator in the area, they'll be able to hear that. So you must, with it being so thick like this, it's quite easy for leopard to sneak up on them. You can imagine there's lots of grass, there's lots of cover, but even just the slightest little twitch or little noise of a breaking branch or stepping on a dried leaf, they'll be able to pick that up very, very easily. And even here, because we're also not too far from the river actually, where there's quite a lot of baboons at the moment. And we often find that impalas and baboons will spend close time together. So Jerome is asking if the zebra follow the impala or the impala follow the zebra. I don't actually know if there's a specific reason for that. Because you might find that with them grazing and feeding, they'll often come close to each other, and then they might group together just because there's safety in numbers. That's why often I wouldn't be surprised if there's some wildebeest in the area. We often find wildebeest, impala and zebra close together. The one time you might find where they will split up again is with zebra being pure grazers. They might try to stick to these open areas where there is more grass for them, and the impala might be comfortable moving into the thickets because they can eat both leaves and grass. So in those times you might find them split up as just where there's, different food that they're looking for. But in an area like this, to be quite honest, there's so much grass in between the bushes as well. I wouldn't be surprised if this group actually stayed together. And I don't think it's so much a question of them following each other. I just think there's a combined feeling of safety for them grouping together, because they're not really competing directly for the same food source. There's enough resources for all of them. And like I said, the benefit just of added ears and eyes, really. I think it'll be interesting to see in this case. So if the impala move off to the left first and we see some of the zebra moving, that'll definitely answer our question, and vice versa, I guess. But I don't think it's a hard and fast rule for all animals all the time. Animal behavior is quite repeatable, but also very, very varied. There's, for the most part, they might do certain things in a specific way, but on the extremes of what they are able to do, animals essentially will do, what they want when they want, really. They don't always stick perfectly to what we've written in books about their behavior. We might just sit with these ones for a few more minutes just to see if anything happens here. But if they continue moving into the thickets, I think we'll also continue with our plan and start heading more to the central parts and check a few more watering holes.
When on safari, there is nothing better than an evening spent under the stars chatting around a fire, with the sounds of the wild all around you. If you sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, you can build your own memories by joining our guides for regular fireside chats. Subscription payments can be made by PayPal, credit card, and now bank transfer. Wild Earth Explorers, it's in your nature.
We stopped as the dusk was settling, and there was a zebra mare underneath the bush. She was lying down. We didn't really know what was happening, and then we saw it.
Everybody, there's a zebra giving birth there. There's a zebra giving birth. This is a zebra giving birth. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, you clever mare. Well done. It's born, everyone. It's born and it's alive and it looks fine.
This was, of course, an unusual sighting. Normally, herbivores like impala and wildebeest and zebra will give birth during the middle of the day. This is when their predators like lions and hyenas are fast asleep. But as this little foal took its first steps, the dying embers of the day had just gone over the western horizon, and it was just the time that the hyenas and lions were starting to get active and go out foraging. This is why we didn't light up the sighting, of course. It may have compromised the zebra's eyes and at the same time attracted those hyenas and lions to the activity.
Hi, my name is Tristan Dix, and I am a guide here at Djuma Private Game Reserve for Wild Earth. We love connecting you to the African bush, and we always look forward to all of your questions. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, you'll need to register on the website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit a question below the live feed. Catch up with me on Wild Earth.
Hello, Mama. Just checking us out, everybody. There's no aggression here. Very relaxed. A herd of elephants moving around your car like that is truly, truly magical.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
Good morning and welcome to And Beyond Phinda. As you can see, we've found some lions here. They are deep in the thicket and hiding away from the sun. The morning's turning out to be quite a warm one already, so I think these guys are making the most of the shade next to the water and are hanging out here. We're going to be here with myself, Dev, and behind the camera we've got Craig this morning. And we've spent the morning following up on a leopard tracks that we were hoping to find, and then we got a brief visual of the leopard and she disappeared into an impenetrable thicket. So we carried on going, and the lions managed to find these lions. So really tough to see from here, but there's 3 of them. They are all young males. They're about a year old now. And as far as we can see, their mother's not with them today. So they're off on their own. They're probably about 30 meters away from a little watering hole, which is really beautiful. In this thick Tamboti thicket, which is giving them the most amazing shade. Unfortunately, it is making our view in to see them quite a tough one. I think we did try 1 or 2 different angles, and I think this is most likely the best one. But really, really special to see them. They have quite underdeveloped manes, but you can see they're kind of starting to get a shaggy head of hair going. And really just massive. They've got really big paws, and they are starting to slowly hunt for themselves. I saw one of them catch a small warthog a little while ago. But I think for today, what is most likely going to happen is they're going to spend the heat of today in this thicket. They don't need much more than what they've got here. Right close to water if they want to drink. They've got pretty good shade, and even just sitting here in the shade next to this thicket, it's a lot cooler than it was when we were driving around out in the sun. The dappled light that's falling onto this lion is really quite something as well. Getting very comfortable here. I think for a lion on a day like today, this is probably as comfortable as it's going to get. You can imagine having all that fur on a hot day in the KwaZulu-Natal, not the easiest place to keep cool for a lion. It's not the easiest place to keep cool as a human. So I think with the shaggy fur coat, it's even more tricky. But we often find in the heat of the day, all our big cats kind of go hang out and sleep next to and underneath nice big thickets like this. At least there is a lot of water now. Beautiful rain. But that rain will also have caused the thicket that we're looking into, all the shoots on the side of it, if we look quite carefully at the leaves, are all fresh and green. So probably making it even harder for us to see into the side of this thicket. It's actually a miracle we spotted them in here, I think. Quite tough, just little flicking ears that you see every now and again, and Craig managed to pick them up as we're driving past. Stacey, that's a very interesting question, and they most definitely do. So on Phinda, we've got lions, leopards, and cheetah. I guess that we would consider the part of the big cats that we've got here. And there's a distinct hierarchy among those three animals. So lions are much more powerful and much larger than the other two. So they are completely dominant. Leopards come in next, being kind of less powerful, less large. They're much smaller than lions. And then cheetah are really nimble, really built for speed. But what that means is they don't have that same power that the leopards have and then the lions have. So cheetah, being at the bottom, when they encounter either of the other two, they need to make sure they can get away as quickly as possible. Leopards themselves will maybe encounter cheetah and chase cheetah away, but if they encounter lions, they definitely need to move off. But lions, being at the top of the pile, don't really need to move out the way for anyone. So when they encounter each other, for the two lower down, it's really, really vital that they are able to get away. One of the reasons when you see cheetah that you'll often see them sitting with their heads kind of they'll lie down, but they'll keep their heads raised because they really, really, really need to make sure that no lion or leopard's going to sneak up onto them. Unfortunately, one of the reasons that cheetah struggle on reserves with other big game is because they do encounter lions and leopards and hyenas, actually. And if any of those other animals manage to catch them, it'll often result in the cheetah being killed. What often happens with these young male lion, though, is there's three of them. So they're three brothers from the same litter. And they are now starting to gain their independence. And as they become more and more independent, they'll start roaming around. Oh, big yawn. I just heard it from the front seat, yeah? And eventually, at about 1.5 to 2 years, they'll probably be chased out of the territory of their fathers. So their father, or the dominant males in this part of the reserve, are two dominant males, two brothers. And these three sub-adults will probably be chased out in the next 6 to 8 months or so. And then they'll go and become a little bit more nomadic and end up roaming around a lot. So we're already finding that they are spending a lot of time in different parts of the reserve. They haven't left the south, but they really have been moving around quite a lot. And I think that's as a result. It's kind of their age. It's what starts happening at this age. And means that they are quite tough to find. We are going to stay here for a little while. I'm going to try and move the vehicle around a little bit and see if we can get another view into this thicket. But for now, we're going to send you across to Ngala.
Now, this is something really exciting. I always like to find these little dwarf mongoose.
Thank you.
And often we find them on termite mounds like this. I think the great thing about these ones is the mound is a little bit further off the road, because often the ones that we do find close to the road, they're quite, skittish. So the moment they see a vehicle, you'll find that they actually just run off. So this is very nice to see them like this. And it looks like those two ones on the mound are just busy sunning themselves. There's a bit of grooming. You can see a third and a fourth one there on the bottom. And this is mainly where they stay, in holes in these old termite mounds, and you'll find them foraging in an area around like this. And I was just wanting to talk about a hornbill, and I saw one fly off to the left there, because this is a very, very interesting relationship between the hornbill, both red-billed and yellow-billed hornbills, and the dwarf mongoose. You'll find that you'll often find them together, especially even on the ground foraging, because what happens as these dwarf mongoose on the ground busy moving around foraging, and they often will disturb insects through the grass, and those insects that the dwarf mongoose miss, the hornbills will actually catch those ones. And it's quite funny though that you might sometimes even find that the hornbills will specifically go and look where the dwarf mongoose are sleeping at night, and then early morning they'll go and wait in a tree close to that mound, just wait for the mongoose to start feeding around. And if they don't come out early, you'll sometimes even find the hornbills will go right where the hole is and they'll call, quack, 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 trying to wake them up. And so it's quite an interesting little relationship that they have. See that one on the top, constantly looking and listening. Maybe something there that's got his attention, but I think they also just look out for danger signs as well, especially in an area like this where you've got big eagles flying. Every now and then you might see them also looking up. If they glimpse any signs of an eagle, they'll just give a call and they'll all run straight back down. And I think a little bit later what these ones might be doing is they'll probably leave the mound and they'll go specifically looking for termites and snails, different insects, millipedes, reptiles, and sometimes even small snakes. And this little group, essentially this little colony, will have an alpha male and an alpha female. That'll be the two main ones breeding, and they're in charge of this colony. And then the home range here, to give you an idea, is probably roughly around the size of about 100 soccer fields put together, more or less. That'll give you an idea of the home range size that they can have. It's about 1 square kilometer, pretty much. So in terms of other animals, not that big, but for a small animal like a dwarf mongoose, that's a decent size. It's a big area to move around, especially when you think how many trees and grasses and different mounds there are, and they won't always stay necessarily in the same one. They might move from mound to mound to different, areas where there are, little holes for them to stay in during the night, and also combined to their favorite foraging areas, I'd reckon as well. Actually, I can just see on the left there in the bushes there's like movement of those hornbills, but they haven't seemed to be coming down yet. So Jerome's asking how big do they get? About 40 centimeters, roughly, I'd say. Body maybe about 20, and then the tail, anything from roughly about 15 to 20 or so. So, yeah, not that actually big. Definitely the smallest mongoose we have here, compared to, one that's slightly bigger, that normally is alone, is a slender mongoose, a little bit longer, and then banded mongoose, larger than that, and then probably the largest we'll get here is the white-tailed mongoose, which is almost the size of a small dog. I'm just having a look at my binoculars quickly, but it looks like most of them have gone down now into the mound. Wouldn't be surprised if we just see one little head pop up again like a periscope of a submarine, really. All right, but that was really lovely. Nice little surprise. I think what we're going to do is we're going to continue on with our drive so long and see what else we can find. Okay. Let's hang on for the bump. Here we go. Right, well, while we continue with our drive, we're going to be sending you off to Tswalu.
welcome back to Tswalu. We have a nice little group of springbok and a pair of ostrich. So the ostrich will come out into frame in a second. There goes the springbok. And there comes the ostrich. So just as we came over the dune, it looked like as if the ostrich were chasing the springbok, but the springbok just ran and the ostrich just reacted and they were following them. So it looked as if the ostrich were chasing the springbok, but now they're just moving on. So there is a male and a female ostrich. That's the female that you're seeing now, the sort of duller brown coloration. We have noticed that she's pretty scruffy looking on her feathers. And then a nice male there. You'll start seeing sort of a rufous red tail and more black coloration in the feathers. So they really are strange birds. I mean, you see, they're so tall, but they feed off the ground, so that's why their neck is so long. But weighing well over 90 kilograms. Alex is asking the question, what do ostriches eat? So they actually have a very wide variety of diet. They like anything shiny, but they will eat... He just had something going down his neck. There was a lump on the neck. So they'll eat sort of vegetative matter, so plants. They'll eat insects. They'll eat bulbs. They do eat a lot of strange things. They'll even eat stones. And the reason for eating stones is that they'll use those stones like grinding plates inside their gizzard to help crush all the other food that they eat. But they are really strange. I haven't seen them if they eat the... I'm sure they would probably eat the wild cucumbers and summer melons. But they'd be looking mostly for something leafy as well as insects. I saw it. It was out of focus, but there was a dragonfly in the frame for a second. So ostriches can be incredibly dangerous, especially if they are in a breeding pair and the male is around and protective over a female or over a nest. They've got only have two toes, one really, really long, large front toe with a very big claw on it, and then just a side toe to help them with balance. But they kick forwards if they need to defend themselves. And their predators out here would be cheetah, lion, leopard, and then for the chicks, jackal, and even hyena. Okay, well then maybe we go back to the springbok. They're standing out in the open. The ostriches have moved out of the frame. So we can have a look at the springbok. So Jean-Claude has asked the question, where do they lay their eggs? So they are ground nesters. So the male will make a nice sort of shallow scraping in the ground for the female. And then the female will lay eggs in there. And up to about 14 eggs. So she'll lay an egg. Because it's such a large egg and it takes time to develop, she's only producing an egg every second day. And then she'll start sitting once she's got a collection of eggs. And then she'll sit for almost 90 days. And the male, being black in coloration, will incubate the eggs at night, and the females tend to sit on the nest during the day. But there is also, I know I've explained it a few times, sometimes you find a group of ostriches and there's multiple females in the group, and they'll practice, they're subordinate females to the dominant female, and they'll practice what's called egg dumping. They'll add eggs to the nest, but the dominant female, by the pores and the pits in the actual egg itself, she can determine which eggs are hers relative to the others, and she keeps her eggs in the middle of the nest, and she puts all the subordinates' eggs on the outside of the nest. So if they're chased off the nest and a brown hyena wants to just quickly grab an egg, it'll often grab the egg of the subordinate ostrich. So just a nice little group of springbuck there in the frame. So with springbuck, you can look at the horns, and the females have much thin little horns in sort of the same shape with that curve, and then the males have slightly thicker horns. So they'll be grazing now until it gets relatively hot, and then they'll go into the shade underneath the tree. Everyone's saying it's so peaceful watching them eat. They are really elegant little creatures. So, springbuck, like impala, will also be mixed feeders in that they'll eat both grass as well as browse. So you can see the one there tucking into the tree. That's not unusual, and they will, anything that's got new growth that's nice and tasty, they will eat. So Lisa is asking the question, are they bigger than impala? No, they're not. They're just a fraction smaller. The impala male being quite a lot larger. They're probably about difference of about 5 to 7 kilograms in difference. In sort of maybe a male versus a female impala. A male springbuck versus a female impala, probably about 5-7 kilos different. But if you had to compare them to the size of a Thompson's gazelle, when you see them up in East Africa, the Thompsons are pretty much the same size of impala, possibly even a little bit larger, in the big Thompson's males. So the springbuck are also in the family of gazelles. They're actually quite far spread out as a group. Normally you would assume that they'd be a lot closer together and clustered, but out in the open here they've got quite good visibility, so they can afford to spread out. If any one of them does alarm, they can then react to that, but it is nice to see how far they are spread out.
It's the month of March, and Wild Earth is offering you the chance to win a brand new prize. Sign up to be a Wild Earth Explorer, and you could win a 5-day eco-training ranger experience for 2. Eco-training is the pioneer and leader in safari guide and wildlife training in Africa. The lucky winners can look forward to approaching dangerous game on foot, tracking and 4x4 driving, learning about animal behavior, and even spending one night sleeping out under a blanket of stars. In addition, you will also get the exclusive opportunity to join the Wild Earth team on the broadcasting vehicle. Sign up to be an explorer now, and it could be you that wins this life-changing experience. Terms and conditions apply.
Converging game path will invariably lead you to a water source, but treat all water as suspect. One of my favorite ways of purifying water is to filter out the particulates. And by just filtering it through your sock, you can clear out most of those. You can put water into a snail shell and you can boil it over a fire or using a chemical like chlorine or colloidal silver.
I'm Nikki here at Ambion Ngala in South Africa. I love getting questions from viewers about all the small things within the environment and how it all is integrated with one another. If you want to ask me any questions, please simply register with the Wild Earth website, head across to the Live Safari page and then post your questions there. I'm looking forward to chatting to you on my next Wild Earth drive.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into Wild Earth every single day. It's in your nature.
I wanted to...
All right, welcome back to Ambion Ngala. We're still continuing our search. There's a bit of a bumpy section up ahead. I was just thinking something I'd like to show you is a little bird we often get sitting on the road. It's called a double-banded sandgrass. And they really are one of my favorites. I know I've said before that Marshall Eagle is my favorite, but I must say most of the birds are really my favorite. Okay. Now these little sandgrass I'm talking about, they look very similar to the Namakwa sandgrass that you should be seeing at Tswalu. I often see them here in pairs as well, little male and female sitting in the little ruts you see on the road. It's nice and open for them. It's also an easy place for them to feed because they'll come here to feed on the grasses, I mean the seeds of the grasses. And the dust on and the sand on the road. It's also a very nice thing for them because they like to dust bathe. You often see them like ruffling their feathers. It helps dislodge parasites as well. It's true, it is really hard to have a favorite. I must say it's the same for me with animals really. I mean, in terms of a favorite animal, I think I've definitely also got favorites for specific reasons. You know, lion, I just love the sound they make and what they represent. Impala is one of my favorites as well, because normally when I go and leave, it's probably the first animal I see when I get back. So I just want to, if I could, give it a hug. Hippo, with the sounds they make, sitting at the edge of a waterhole watching the sunset. The sounds of some of the francolins and the spurfowls as the sun sets, and the jackals as well. It's actually amazing how many different things are related to a sound for myself. It's often an audible experience. But of course, there's definitely nothing wrong about having a favorite animal. And if there's any of you viewers watching, please let us know what a favorite animal is. I'd like to know what is your favorite. I actually just had a very interesting smell now, which smelled a lot like popcorn. And that can be two things. It's either the scent mark of a leopard or that of a genet. Now, often leopards like walking around along roads like this. It's like a natural pathway for them, and they'll select a little bush like this, turn to the side, lift their tail and spray. Now when it's very, very fresh, you'll smell what I just smelled now very strongly. This is not too strong, so it's probably from sometime yesterday or maybe during the night. But you would not believe how much it resembles the smell of popcorn. And this is definitely an ideal place for leopard. It's good habitat, there's good cover, and there's lots of good big trees here. There's jackalberry trees and marula trees, which are the ones they prefer here normally to either rest, but also to hoist up their carcasses. But it has been a long time since I've actually seen a leopard here. Now we know they're here. We see their tracks often. The one night, not too far from camp, we saw a male leopard, one that we don't actually know who he is. He might have been coming through because he was quite skittish. You could see he wasn't really too used to the vehicles, and it was one quick view and he moved off. So it's definitely not one that we see often here. But one of the reasons why we do struggle this time of year to find leopard is because in the summer months, it's very, very thick. But also, with the rain we had, there's so much water in between the areas where the roads are. So the leopards they actually don't even have to come to the roads. They can live in the bush, make a kill, hoist it up in a tree. When they finish there, they can go down to a little pan or a little wallow where there's water, have a drink. And so for that reason, they're not moving as much here as we normally see. But that's the exciting thing about going out on a drive, is that every drive you go out is one that you might find anything really. But while we continue on our drive, we're going to send you over to Phinda.
Welcome back to and beyond Phinda, guys. So very lucky of us. We carried on driving from where we saw those, or like we said, it was the 3 Sabadell males in the thicket. Because it was so thick, we could actually only see 2 of them, and just kind of assumed that the third brother was there as well. But coming a little bit further along, we've managed to find the brother out on his own here. So you can see now walking along the edge of this watering hole. He turned around really nicely for us when we got here. There he is, going across. Kind of walking away from us now. I'm just going to turn the car on and go on after him. We've been hoping to see just a little bit more detail on him. Obviously with him walking away, it's a little bit harder. But beautiful to see them out, and amazing that he's moving at this time of the day. It's now really getting warm. It's 8:30. The sun's kind of blaring down. And he's walked around this watering hole now, kind of just expecting him to go down and have a drink. We found him there were some monkeys alarm calling in the thicket on our right, up in these beautiful fever trees here. And there's two of us now here with him, and you can see he's a little bit nervous on his own, and that might be because he's not with his two brothers. So when we found them in the past, I've only ever found them, all three of them together. I haven't seen them out on their own. But remember I said that they were now getting to a stage where they were roaming, moving around more. So you might find that that's exactly what's happening with this guy now. He's a little bit older, starting to become more independent and more brave and adventurous. So you'll often find even coalitions of males, when they're older, will move around on their own, even when they've got a partner. Oh, there's a little turn of a head. You can see really underneath his neck now, that mane that's starting to develop. So he's getting long hair under his head. He doesn't have too much hair on the back of his head yet, but that mane is starting to form. You can see just a little bit of a mohawk forming on the back of his head. You can imagine for an animal with fur how hot it is to be walking around now. Hey girl, the fathers of these three males was they're the southern males or the Bayala males. And we are still very much inside the territory of the fathers. So I am expecting in the next little while for these lions to move off on their own and move out of the area of the males. But for now, they seem to be pretty content walking around and still inhabiting the same space. It would be quite interesting to see what the reaction of those would be if they came into contact with these three now. I imagine that as time goes on from now, it's going to start getting more and more. They'll be more and more less welcome, if we can put it that way. So this male is now walking right in the direction of those other two that we left under the thicket. So he's probably got another 500 or 600 meters to go till he catches up to them. But if he turns right here, then he is going off in the wrong direction. He needs to follow the road. So there's a bit of a path or road that goes off to the right here. Let's just see where he's gotten himself to. He is going off in the wrong direction now. So the brothers are behind us, not far away. He maybe had a bit of their scent earlier, but he's now gone off course. And this is often quite common with lions, actually. We'll see them moving close to each other in the same area. You often find at the last minute they'll turn off in the wrong direction. So when we got a little bit closer to him earlier, he did seem a little bit nervous, so we're just hanging back a bit here. Stacy, the last time they would have eaten, they don't look too hungry. I can see on this male that his stomach's actually quite full, and they are in really good condition. So maybe he had something to eat in the last couple days. I haven't been able to see them feeding recently, but judging by the size of their stomach, they're not too hungry. He's just stopped now. His ears have pricked up a little bit. I'm surprised that we have stopped hearing those monkeys alarm calling, because from where they were when we saw them, they had a very nice view of this whole area here. They were up in the thickets on the trees on the right there. We're going to carry on following this male now. He'll definitely be looking for opportunities to hunt. But being a younger male, he still will have a lot to learn about hunting. So they'll probably be trying and failing a lot. From the way we saw him though, we're going to keep following him. He did look interested in something. As he just stopped on the edge here, he kind of pricked his ears up, then they dropped down a little bit and he stopped. You could see he was definitely listening for something. Could be quite interesting if he does see something. We are going to carry on following this lion for now. Maybe he'll stop in a little bit. It is really hot. And lie down, making it a little bit easier for us to get a nice view. But for now, we're going to send you across to Andrew, and we'll be sure to come back to us if we get anything cool happening over here.
Good luck, Dave. Hopefully those lions would have settled down there, because of course, indeed, it's getting warm. So we've been continuing following our elephants, which is no joy. And then now we're stopping here. What we see there, it's actually in a nest. It looks like it's also not used for now or abandoned by the blue waxbill, one of the finch in the area, where their nests are very much identical due to the grass, the specific grass they use, and able to tell that. But it's not used because sometimes you would see a wasp around it if it's in use. So wasp is as a security. So type of a nest like this, which is covered to the top. Type of birds, quite a few different birds. They also ground nest, which goes down usually on a tuft of the grasses on top of them, where would be by a robin bird. But on the floor usually these are lapwings, koran, or those type. Those on top would be just no cover. The eggs are just paws. Where what you see there, it's probably an entrance that we can't see about because, like I say, it's not actually used. So it's not actually clear. Material that we can see is not actually visible much where the entrance is. Also asking if different bird species would ever use the same nest. Not all of them. Where finches most would prefer rebuilding the nest, the new one, as well as a dove would do that. And the reason it's all about in the next season, they avoiding fleas or a lot of parasite would be already developed in the older nest. so they'll prefer to build another nest. Same as weavers, most, except for the eagles, those. And then Hamarkop or hammer-haired bird, they will use pretty much the same nest. But majority of those, they would prefer to rebuild a new nest. And the finch is all clever bird. Where they build nest, they pick or choose trees which is a hook, a little bit of thorns. We're looking at these buffalo thorns, or Zazifa macronata thorns. So those are one of these hook thorns, where it's not easy for anything else there, except for the snake will disturb that. And then I'm going to go continue check now the southern boundary here. See if we find anything along the road for everybody to have a look. Hopefully. So, there's quite a lot of weight around in this area, where the elephants, where we were hoping to find them either drinking. So we're probably spending most of the time feeding, but they also drink as they go because the water is all available along the road. Also, our drainage line system, the riverine, is still pushing a lot of water. So let me continue to do the southern boundary search around here. Hopefully we get show you something. In the meantime, I'll be sending you across to Ngala.
Welcome back to And Beyond Ngala. We have found a brilliant surprise. This is one of the reasons why I love this riverbed. So we found some members of the Birmingham Pride, and this is the first time that I've seen the mother with the 3 youngsters join up with the Pride, and this is what we were expecting. About a week ago, saw them on their first carcass, and so the mother has now introduced them to the Pride, which is fantastic. So she's there. There's one other lioness with the 2 other cubs that are about close to a year now. And one of the dominant males off to the right. And the second male is just somewhere behind the vehicle on the other side of the river. But what an absolute fantastic find. And it is starting to warm up very nicely. I mean, you can feel the sun, even though it's early morning, and that's why they've chosen the shade of that buffalo thorn. And you can just imagine how lovely cool the sand is there. And this is most likely what they're going to be doing for the majority of the day. Had a look at their bellies. They look like they've eaten. So definitely not too skinny. In this area, they could have found a kudu, maybe a wildebeest, or even a few impala, a little bit in the last day or 2 at least. Yeah, a little bit earlier on, there was 2 of those youngsters that were busy suckling. I think they've also had a good full, so they just also now fast asleep. But what I I think what we'll do is just to sort of give you the experience of what it must be for these lions, is we're just going to sit and enjoy them and listen to some of the sounds. See if you can hear there's hornbills calling, a black-headed oriole, and every now and then a woodland kingfisher, and it's just such a lovely scene in the riverbed here in Africa. Let's just soak it up. Yankov, I have to agree 100%. It's always good to spend time with the Birmingham Pride. If they're sleeping, if they're walking, if they're hunting, if they're eating, doesn't matter what they do, it's always an absolute highlight to see them. And especially here in the Timavati River with the water still flowing a little bit, this is by far the longest I've seen it flow. It's just a really spectacular picture. Got them in the sand, there's water close by, and they're just enjoying being lions. One thing that I am wondering is actually how long it's going to take for the whole of the pride to actually join up, and I wouldn't be surprised if the other younger ones, they just lifted their heads now. You can see one of the younger ones are just repositioning there in the bushes, and I think that flick of the branch actually just caused the one lioness to look that side. So the youngsters still moving around a little bit. What I wanted to say was the other young ones, the sub-adult lions, with the two white ones. Now they were in an area probably not too far from where these ones are at the moment, and at this stage with them becoming older, around 2 years, and the others being between 2 and 3 years, they are more comfortable leaving the pride from time to time, and it's part of them gaining experience, reaching adulthood, but at some stage they will be joining up with them. And even though we can't see any of them here, it's very possible that they could be not too far from here, somewhere in the thicket, close to this riverbed. And I wonder how they'll react when they see these young ones for the first time. Just two little ones busy playing in the back there. So 15 is asking how far lions will move on average in a given day. Well, that'll definitely depend on the particular lions and the particular day. What I've observed here in Ngala, on average, depending on if they've eaten or not, they might move, between 5 to 7 kilometers, which would be a lot for them here. But I once tracked in another area the tracks of a male lion where they walked during the night, and they walked over 17 kilometers. So it really does vary. And you'll find maybe that, let's say, for instance, this pride has gone and they've killed the buffalo. Lots of meat, and they'll be around that carcass maybe for at least a day or two, sometimes even 3, depending on the meat that's there. After that, their bellies are full. Close by, they'll be resting for maybe another day or 2 in that area. The only thing that might cause them to move is actually water, because once lions have eaten, they do get very thirsty. And so if the water is available in the area, they'll definitely go for a drink. In areas, for instance, maybe like the Kalahari, or where it's a lot more drier and there isn't any water available, lions can survive on the fluids of their prey, especially even the blood has got enough moisture to keep them going. But they do get thirsty. And then you'll find once they've digested that meal and they've spent 3 to 4 days pretty much in the same area, they'll just get up and move to a different part of the territory. And they might easily in one night walk 7 to 10 kilometers in this area, what I've seen. So yes, it definitely does vary from time to time and from pride to pride. But also another limiting factor for this pride, particularly if the lioness is now trying to stay with them permanently now with the youngsters, the youngsters obviously can't move that far. So that might definitely influence the movements of the lioness as well. She won't, take them for kilometers and kilometers and kilometers on end, because they'll just get tired too quickly. So she'll move in little segments, and most likely will stay in the core part of the territory, like where they are now is almost pretty central to the territory of the Birmingham Pride. And that's also a safety thing, because that means that there's more protection from the dominant males in this area, where if she moves to the fringes, there's real likelihood of coming across some of the other lions and other, on the boundaries of the territories. And about the last few days, we've had some really interesting lion dynamics at the moment with different prides coming into Ngala. All of them were busy roaring, almost asserting their presence. And I wouldn't be surprised if that in this year, more males might be coming from the east to try and move into this area and potentially try and take over this pride, and might try and push the Ross males out of the area. But so far the dominant males here have been doing a good job at keeping other lions out and protecting the rest of this pride. Alright, well, we're just going to be sitting here with them for a little bit and see what they get up to. Such a lovely sighting.
On a bushwalk, we become part of the natural landscape. Walking enables access to the smaller parts of nature, such as bugs, spiders, and flowers in much greater detail.
These are the wing buds right here. Isn't it just amazing?
I've never seen anything like this before. It is so beautiful. Look at those little legs.
Now, it's your turn to go on a bushwalk. Join us from Pridelands as we reconnect to the place that first taught us how to be human.
Being a safari driver requires some serious multitasking ability. You've got to be able to talk, look at the road, steer, and occasionally get the vehicle into the right gear.
Do not crash into any trees. Oh, not so dozy.
Just jump into the car and hope for the best, and you'll see where it takes you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm surprised they're moving as fast as that didn't go well.
Who is the best driver? Well, me, of course, although some of the cam-ops might disagree.
My name is Ross, and I'm a field guide at and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. I love getting questions from guests on Wild Earth because I love sharing and learning information about nature with new people, and it also makes me feel like you're all joining me in real life. If you want to ask a question on Wild Earth, then you need to register on our website. Once registered, go to our live safari page and submit your question below our live feed.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Oh, you don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth Daily.
Hi everyone, my name's Daniel Fisher and I'm going to be your guide this afternoon. What is my favorite animal and why? I think I'd have to say a lion. Being able to try and follow them and understand their movements and dynamics is super interesting. People often underestimate them and think that they sleep all the time, but once they get up and start moving around, they are fascinating to watch, and watching them interact with one another is a super highlight for me. If I can pass on this passion and this enthusiasm for lions and prides of lions into a guest that's sitting at home, that's what I'm really going for.
I think there seems to be some little bit of activity with the pride. These youngsters have now finished with their resting and they are busy walking up and down the lionesses. I just saw one of the youngsters. He actually grabbed hold of the tail of one of the lionesses. You can almost imagine him trying to attack it. Being a little lion, that instinct to just want to grab stuff, play with it is very strong in them, even at this age. And they are very playful. It's almost now they're at this stage where they just want to be moving around and fiddling and biting. I think also it's part of the way they learn, starting to see what their paws actually can do, how to maneuver it, how to use their mouths, how to bite, chew on things. You often see that cubs of the same age will start wrestling each other. One thing that did catch my eye, and you may have seen the same thing, but these three young ones are actually very, very light in color. Now, they're not white lions like the other two, but it just shows you do get genetic variation in lions. Similar thing like you might get blonde hair in humans and, darker hair. And it's the same thing with these lions. Definitely a lighter colored gene that came through in these young ones, where if you look specifically with the other two older ones that are about a year old, when they were the same age as these three, they were dark in color, very, very dark brown. And so they just have got a genetic color for that specifically. But having all this lighter color also makes me think, with this particular pride, having the genes for white lions might be the reason why that lighter color, the paleness, might come through more strongly in a pride like this. Just a while ago, that male lion on the right who's lying in the sun, he lifted up his head. He almost started looking at the shade. It makes me think if he's going to get up and move. Alright, well, we're going to be just sitting here for a little bit with these lions to see what they get up to. And in the meantime, we are going to send you off to Tswalu.
Welcome back to Tswalu. We finally found what looked like the eland might have been running from earlier when we were with the meerkats, is 4 beautiful cheetah. And if I look at them, they all have sort of the same body size. So what we're thinking is that this is 4 subadults that have just recently left their mother, or their mother has recently left them. So they'd be about 16, 18 months old. And they'd stay together until how many ever females were in this group come into estrus and split off in their own direction. And then whatever's males will stay as a coalition. So it's nice for us to see 4 cheetah together. So at the moment we're already sitting at 24 degrees, and by midday we're going to head up to about 34 degrees, so it's going to be incredibly hot. So they've already chosen to lie in the shade, and they'll just adjust their position in that nice shady spot right throughout the day as the shade shifts, and then potentially only think about moving to go hunting later this afternoon. They look like they have eaten recently, but not yesterday. They don't look incredibly hungry, but they do look like they could possibly go off hunting. And that's one of the reasons why they'd stay together as a little group for a time frame, is that they help each other with their hunting techniques before moving off in their own directions. Dizzy is commenting that she loves seeing new cheetah. We do too. There's quite a number on Tswalu, and sometimes we don't know who belongs to who, but it took us a bit of time to sort of figure out why would we have 3, because we don't know of a mother and 3 of cubs of this age. So that's why we're looking at them carefully, and they all have roughly the same size body and head, which is why we know that we had a mother and 4, and the 4 were old enough to have been left relatively soon. So it's not long ago that their mother actually did leave them, and that's what we think we're seeing here is 4 sub-adult cheetah. So they will grow into adults, or they'll become sort of slightly bigger over the next 6 months or so. Just absolute bliss, just lying there in the shade. BK and I are out in the sun cooking because the closest shade is too far away from the camera. So they've chosen the sort of one shady tree in the whole open clearing, and we're out cooking in the sun, but well worth bringing this to you live as they just snooze under the tree. Everyone is saying that they look so comfortable. I wish I could join them in the shade. Both BK and I wish we could join them in the shade. They do look like they're quite nice and comfortable, very relaxed. So that is the typical posture for a cheetah, to lie flat like that with just sort of the head up or completely passed out, relying on hopefully that one of the other siblings is being alert and aware. And they pretty much won't do much between now and the late afternoon. Everyone's saying thanks for being out in the sun. It's absolutely our pleasure. This is what we do, and we're glad we managed to find them, to show them to all of you. So a little bit of sun never hurt. That's what sunscreen and hats are for. Isn't that just beautiful? Very nice to see those tear stains coming from the eyes very, very clearly there. Patricia has asked a very interesting question. Are cheetahs group hunters? So it's difficult to say yes or no. So in this situation, with the four of them looking after each other, they will hunt together. And the advantage of actually having four is that they sometimes create so much chaos in a herd of springbuck or impala that only one of them needs to be successful for all of them to eat. So yes, in this situation, they would hunt together. Coalitions of males would hunt together, so they would be successful together. But then why I say sort of no is that you also have solitary females that in the time frame that they don't have cubs with them, or the cubs are too young, then they're hunting on their own. And the cubs only start participating in the hunt when they're about 11, 12 months old. So they are capable of hunting on their own as well as in groups. But they certainly, the goal is to feed everybody. So they all will participate in the hunt. It's not the same as lions, where lions you often find that the males lag at the back and it's kind of like they feel like it's not their job. And they let the females do all the work. With cheetah, whether it's a male or a female, they're all wanting to hunt for themselves to feed for the greater good of everybody. I always find it an amazing feat that a female by herself for the first 11 months has managed to raise 4 cubs and feed them regularly enough to get them to the stage where they can move off as sub-adults. At this stage, it's quite a feat for a mother to have this many cubs and get them all to this age. So at their size, they may not necessarily have the best experience to try and pull down something large like an oryx. They probably, with their hunting skills at what they are at the moment, would probably be better at trying to catch something that's about the size of a springbuck. And then as they hone their techniques, as they themselves get stronger in their body and older and more experienced, then they start thinking about the possibility of kudu or gemsbok. At the moment, there are a lot of young calves around as well, whether they're gemsbok calves or eland calves. There's always a possibility there. So they have just sat up to see something. There's a gemsbok in the very, very far distance, which would be way too big for them. But as they roll over and look into the distance, we're going to send you across to Lauren.
Well, everyone, I've not been having much luck lately with technology. And I joked to Marcel, who is this person in front with the hairless head. And I said, Marcel, what can I possibly break today? I broke the car. So, in case you wonder where on earth I am and why you haven't seen me, my cameraman's still here, Davi. Where's your thumb? There's Davi's thumb. We're all good and well, but I just thought I would show you why you have not seen me in a while. And I hang my head in shame. We were on our way to a very exciting sighting, but sadly, Wendy decided to die. And Wendy's my girl, so she's going to need to go into hospital, but hopefully all will be well this afternoon, and I will eventually get round to finishing that riddle. 2 drives in a row, no riddle. Can you honestly believe it? So we're being towed, and yes, at least we got to show you the moth. Thank goodness the moth is not with us now, and at least we got to show you Shadulu. Shadulu's definitely still in the property. We could hear the impala alarm calling, but sadly, it's just in the thicket, and you can see the condition of the roads and the condition of the car. So here I go, following Marcel, but I'm sure we'll be right as rain this afternoon. Lots of leopard activity on Chitwa. It leaves lots of promise for this afternoon. I believe both Tandy and Kuchava are roaming around the same area, mother and daughter, and I think they were even chasing one another at some point. So there was no physical sort of aggression, but they were definitely circling the same area, and I imagine both their sons will be around. So you've got the whole royal lineage right there, so that's exactly what I will be going after this afternoon. So everyone, you probably will not see me for the rest of the drive, but I just wanted to let you know we are alive and well, and for now we're going to send you across to Ngala.
back to and beyond Bengala, where we've managed to find a few giraffe. Looks like 3 of them busy feeding there. I think if I can see the horns correctly, it looks like it might be 3 males. And you can just see the broader horns and the bald parts at the top. Right, and the reason we came here is we decided to leave those lines and to see maybe if we can't find any signs of the rest of the Birmingham Pride. And then we came across this beautiful open area just south of the river and managed to find these giraffe. Now, believe it or not, we can actually use giraffe to help us find predators. With their very long necks and good eyesight, often when they're walking in open areas like this, if they come across lions moving or sleeping, or even leopard and cheetah, often will stare in a very particular way. And so if you're driving around in the bush and you see giraffe all staring with intent in a particular area, it's always good to stop and have a look yourself, because many a time they've actually helped me to find cheetah and lion. And so one of the reasons why these giraffe are coming to this area is this part with the particular soils we have here. There's a lot of knobthorn trees growing here, and it is one of their favorite species to feed on here. It's very nutritious, and those severe hooked thorns doesn't seem to affect them at all. You know, they've got a very, very thick skin around their tongue and over their lips. It just doesn't bother them. Alright, well, what we're going to do, we're going to leave these giraffe, continue on with our search, and we'll send you over to Andrew Juma.
Good luck, Fred. So we got a very interesting bird over here on the ground, which is a red-billed hornbill, busy feeding on a little bit of a beetle that it's within the, looks like a not really fresh elephant dung, but probably yesterday elephant dung. So this is what these birds do. When they land on the ground, use their very strong beak, spear on the ground to search for food. Oops, looks like somebody has to get away. So there's actually some species there. Maybe the one was the weakest. So hornbill is one of the lower flying birds. They're very strong beak. I'm going to continue on a search here, and then I'll be sending you across to Brightland.
Good morning, and welcome to a very warm and sort of hot, sunny Pridelands, where apparently this morning it was 19 degrees Celsius, now 66 Fahrenheit. It's probably a lot warmer than that now, as testament to these elephant bulls swimming. Well, everybody, it seems like we've sorted out some gremlins this morning, and my name is Steve, joined by Gert on camera. And as always, it's lovely to be out here to host you, and we are coming to you from Eco Training Pridelands in the Greater Kruger. And, well, I'm feeling a little bit jealous of these two bulls here having a swimmingly fabulous time in Leopard Dam. Now, lots of elephants around at the moment. We had such a special day with elephants yesterday. actually see when they go under how buoyant their back is. I was discussing yesterday how the lungs sort of attached to the spinal cord. They push their body under, it just bobs back up again. And boys will be boys. Boys will be boys, always making waves. So just switch off and listen. So we do have another vehicle coming down the drag, so if you do hear an engine, it's probably one of our eco training student groups, been out on morning training. Quite early on into the course, first 3-4 days, instructors will drive them around, show them how to guide, and then from then on out, students take it in turn to be responsible for guiding. Obviously, the instructor's always there to take full responsibility, but it becomes the guide's responsibility to plan, to interpret, to guide. And all the while learning. Jerome, they can actually swim. They're quite buoyant, as I said, with the lungs being attached to their spine. But a lot of the time they are walking. But elephants can actually physically swim across watering holes, across rivers. Very efficient. And they seem to love it. As I discussed yesterday, apart from it being a nice way to cool down, it seems very, very pleasurable to them. Apart from dolphins swimming in the wake of boats and in the waves in the ocean, and whales sometimes also performing, there doesn't seem to be many other mammals who, apart from humans, who swim for pleasure. You see how, watch it now, the one in the front, in the back there. Sorry, the front. Watch how his back pushes up. As the weight of the body pushes up with the oxygen inside. Dr. Rocky Balboa, they won't hurt each other. They're just boys playing in the water. Just boys. They're not out for aggression. It's the water, as I discussed yesterday, takes away a lot of the weight. It's like if you've ever pushed anyone around in the water, you throw children in the water, you try to do the same with children on land, and they're going to hurt themselves when they get a reality of checking in with the earth. But water has a very comforting sort of effect. Obviously, it's not so comforting when you fall on your face while water skiing. But when you're just in the water like this, elephants lose most of their weight, so they don't have as much force when they're pushing. And this is important techniques and strategies that these bulls are practicing for later on when they need to compete. You can't just suddenly be a fighter. You have to learn the tricks, and what better way to do it in a safe environment where you can splash around, take away a lot of the weight. Building pretty good bonds. You'll see quite decent sized elephant bulls hanging around together for a long time, and they definitely got a very nice reputation or rapport with each other until they come into must, and then it's a different story. Lisa, they do look like they're having a good time. Feeling a bit envious sitting here in the sun. Should we go join them, Gert? We can go push ourselves around in the water. Okay. Well, we know there's no hippo here. He's down. He was anyway down at Ndlovu Dam. We wouldn't go in, everybody. It's tempting. Having your own built-in snorkel. That's why the biggest mammals on Earth are in the ocean. The water takes away the weight, makes life a lot easier. They're buoyant. That's why elephants love to play in the water as well.
Hi, I'm Lisa. I'm here in Northern California.
This is an Anna's hummingbird. We love seeing him because he brings a little magic and energy to our cold, wintry backyard.
In the winter, they politely visit one at a time, but in the summer, they gorge themselves in groups to prepare for their long migration south. As the hummingbirds fly south, over 1 million of these Canadian geese travel the Pacific Flyway from the Arctic to spend the winter with us. They like wetlands and we're in a drought, but they seem pretty happy on the dry bank of Folsom Lake here. This has been a tough year everywhere, but one good thing was we found Wild Earth, who encouraged us to relieve our stress through nature. There's a saying that
a distraction is momentary, an escape helps you heal.
Sometimes love wants to make you sing. And sometimes love wants to make you bow and fan your wings to your bow. For the southern yellow-billed hornbill, these are signs that love is in the air. These birds are destined for a season of monogamy at least. Breeding pairs are in it for the survival of their chicks. But before love commences, the male needs to woo his valentine with food in the form of nuptial gifts.
My name is Taylor McCurdy and I work for Eco Training. I love hearing from all of the viewers. However, I particularly enjoy those of you who have been watching for a few years. Your questions are just so advanced and they really get me thinking. If you'd like to ask a question on Wild Earth, you need to register on our website. Once you've done that, head to the live safari page and submit your questions below the live feed.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. but it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops. Oof.
Expect the unexpected here on Wild Earth daily.
And as you can see, nothing much has changed from sleeping flat, other than the fact that the temperature is just increasing, but all of them passed out. The only thing that's moving every now and again is their ears to chase away the flies that have been bothering them and biting, and you also see every now and again the tail moves. But nothing much should really disturb them here during the day, because any of the other predators are in the same situation as them, in that it's too hot to move. Everybody else is in the shade. So they can probably rest easy at this point, not having to fear for other bigger predators like lion or hyena. They'll be in the same boat, as it were, that it is just too hot to move. So everyone is taking a midday siesta. Kathy has asked the question, will they only start waiting until the evening to start moving? So absolutely, as soon as that sun starts dipping and the temperature starts dropping in that sort of dusky light, it is possibly the best opportunity for them to go hunting, because even their spots help them blend into the background, and that would be when they would give a chance at a hunt. There are some cheetah here, we know of male cheetah here that will even hunt at night, but that's a skill that they've learned over time, and they tend to be more successful even hunting under the full moon, moving distances. But females with cubs, they tend not to try and move at night, because there's many more predators and there's a lot more pressure at night time. So yeah, one or two of them stood up and changed position, so they look like they've eaten recently, so they may not want to hunt this evening, but they are waiting for it to get a bit cooler. The only thing that would make them move is if there was another predator that moved through here, but as I said earlier, they're having their midday siesta like everybody else, and that's pretty much what Wild Earth TV is going to go and do now, is also have our midday siesta. We'll be back on air live this afternoon at 3:30 Central African time. You can join us for our 4-hour live safari this afternoon, and thank you very, very much for joining us and from all the different locations this morning.